Okay, ma'am, kindly have a look. Teacher and parent, they haven't joined.
Yeah. Teachers will be very happy. I believe the parents will also be very happy. We had a discussion today. It's nothing political or academic.
Welcome, Pooja ma'am. Your mic is muted.
Good evening, everyone.
Hi.
Myself, Pooja Gupta. Namaste, sir.
Namaste.
I've joined here as a parent, actually, on behalf of Elcon Group.
Thank you. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone.
Monica, please check the connection of Varnika, Tarannum, Dr. Hasija, and Dr. Harish. I think it's 4. Over to you, Monica.
With a warm greetings, I extend my warmest welcome to the talk show Education 4.0 for Safe Sustainable Societies.
The video is not playing, I think. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the talk show organized by Samurja Educational Society on the theme Education 4.0 Safe Sustainable Society. The society was established in the year 1991, and then it was rejuvenated in the year 2011 with a revised agenda. We express our gratitude to those who have supported us in these 30 years. We are indebted to Madam Daljit Kaur, former Additional Director, SCERT, Shri Y.P. Puranji, former Additional Director, Department of Education, Shri Virendra Shrivastavaji. We cannot forget the contribution of late Shri Suraj Prakashji. The society has conducted numerous orientation and training programs for stakeholders in school education, besides organizing educational deliberations as symposium, panel discussion, and conferences. The society has conceptualized and published magazines and periodicals for students as well as for teachers. The social outreach programs of the society are the Charity Wall and the Girl Next Door. During this pandemic, the society has organized numerous online sessions for students, teachers, and deliberations for school leaders. Our endeavor is to take this legacy of Samurja forward with our tiny efforts. Martin Luther King Jr. said, "The ultimate measure of a man is not where he stands in the moment of comfort and convenience, but where he stands at the time of challenge and controversy." We may all have come in different ships, but Corona has put us in the same boat. And this is the time when each one of us must take a position that is neither conventional nor politic nor popular, but we have to take it being human, because we are in education, because our inner conscience is questioning us. The questions are arising when we listen to the challenges faced by students, teachers, school leaders, and management. All those who are associated with school education. What do we need? A more structured approach, another guideline, a manual, a rule book, a checklist, or the autonomy? Gurudev Rabindranath Tagore, Asia's first Nobel laureate, said, "The education should not be imparted in the natural surroundings." He believed in giving children the freedom of expression. He said, "Children have their active subconscious mind, which, like a tree, has the power to gather its food from the surrounding atmosphere." Dennis Waitley, an author and chairman of US Olympic Committee, said, "Listen to the desire of a child, encourage and give him the autonomy to take their own decision." NEP 2020 also referred about active learning, engaging students and making them responsible learners, preparing them to be autonomous learners. Autonomous teachers can thrive in the school with confident leadership. A leader who enjoys autonomy can take the organization to a different scale of new heights. Same is applicable with the school management to be autonomous. I will reserve my comment about the state autonomy. What are the parameters of autonomy in school for different stakeholders? To know about this, we have with us a veteran in school education, a charismatic leader, and a sunshine to anybody and everybody associated with school education. He is an encyclopedia of education, Shri S.K. Bhattacharya sir. I request Bhattacharya sir to please extend the verbal greeting so that our participants, they can have a glimpse of yours. Bhattacharya sir.
To Gupta ji, first of all, in fact, in the introductory talk, you have already made it clear the meaning of autonomy and how autonomy is essential, not only for the sustenance, for growth. It is important not only for an institution, it is also equally important for an individual also. We are talking today the relevance of.
Sir, we have to still welcome you.
No problem.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I request, because these little girls have really prepared, surprises for you. I request Monica ma'am to welcome sir with a musical note. Monica ma'am.
Thank you.
Perfectly fine, Monica. I do not have the audacity to introduce Bhattacharya sir, who is a well-known figure in school education. He is the president of Action Committee of Honorary Monica, please a little slow.
I think this is good enough.
He
Let's come to the point and let us spend more time with the
is the
discussion.
member of Managing Committee of 26 Bal Bharti schools, the director of N.K. Bargodia Public School, Rohini, Dwarka Sector 4 and Dwarka 17. He is also associated with the Maharaja Agrasen School, ITL School as an advisor. Take it forward, Monica. He is also the member of Sports Management Organizing Committee of Khelo India, member of Organizing Committee of FIFA Under 17 and World Cup 2017. Next, please.
Okay.
This is technology, and we need to embrace it with a smile.
Right, thank you.
I apologize.
Do not. It is technology. You people are doing much more. Very good task. It's okay. So this is a musical note for you.
This is okay, thank you. Let us now start with the discussion on the topic autonomy in education. Before I start my deliberation on the subject, first of all, I'd like to take up the dictionary meaning of the word autonomy. Right to self-governance, personal freedom, freedom of the will, self-governing community, that is the meaning of autonomy in the dictionary. When we're talking about autonomous institution, that means having the self-government, acting independently, and having the freedom to act and freedom to take decision. Autonomy in the education sector is nothing very new. Even the government of India has also recognized the importance of autonomy. There are a number of public sector companies which are the autonomous institutions, and even some education institutions also having granted the status autonomy by the government through Parliament Act. We can take the example of Indian Institute of Management. We can also talk about IITs, Jawaharlal Nehru University. Like there are many institutions who have been granted the autonomy. And we also know what is the result of this autonomy granted to the institutions. IITs or IIMs are the world-class institutions because they have the freedom to take a decision, freedom to decide about the curriculum, freedom to appoint the best quality of teachers, and freedom to practice innovations, freedom to do any kind of experiments. These are some of the things they have added and given this status to these institutions. Fortunately, some private institutions have also been granted by the government, like UGC and other organizations. We can talk about St. Xavier's College, Mumbai, St. Xavier's College, Kolkata, and there are also some institutions having the complete autonomy. When we're talking about autonomous institution and talking about the school, we can give the example of Krishnamurti, and we can give the example of Aurobi, Pondicherry. They're also having the autonomy, and they are known as experimental schools, and they are involved in a number of innovative. Not that Delhi does not have any provision for autonomous schools. If you look into the Act and Rules in 1973, in section 17 of DACR 1973, about granting autonomous private schools. I do not want to read the entire provision in the Act and Rules of 1973, but I would like to only read a few lines from the particular act, and that will make you understand why government even in 1973 realized the importance of autonomy and assured the institutions which are doing wonderful work in the field of education, in the field of curricular transaction, may be given the status of autonomy. I'll read out a letter. Establishment of autonomous schools, the administrator may, if he desires, may select in this behalf of function as autonomous school solely for the purpose of introducing innovations, conducting new experiments with regard to curriculum, methods, teaching, and evaluation. Every autonomous school shall have the freedom to have its own syllabus and curriculum. They introduce the subject textbooks and to assess its own students and hold examination up to the end of the middle stage. This is the text of the Rule 17 of DSCR 1973. It is very unfortunate. Since 1973, not a single school in Delhi has been considered for autonomous status. It is not that Delhi does not have excellent schools. In fact, the schools in Delhi are known for excellence, and they are known as the hub of all kinds of experiments, and every state in the country today are taking Delhi as the role model. But despite of all that, what is very unfortunate that the school in Delhi, not a single school, has been given the status of autonomous school. It's a matter for consideration why it has happened so. Now the process of the liberalization started, you all know about LPG. And after the LPG, even the LPG was adopted by India, and from a closed control economy, India was transferring into a liberal economy right from the time of Narasimha Rao ji. And Mr. Manmohan was the finance minister in those days. He was also very careful about that. India, it wants to grow, and India wants to develop economically, culturally, educationally. India must also adopt the policy of LPG. If you kindly read the report of Dr. Radhakrishnan in 1948, the Radhakrishnan Commission report in 1948, I'll read out a few lines what he talked about autonomy and why autonomy is so important for organizations for sustenance and growth and development. In the report, it has been emphatically recommended the education institution should be free from bureaucratic control. Few lines are quoted to support the above statement. Freedom of individual development is the basis of democracy. Exclusive control of education by the state has been an important factor in facilitating the maintenance of totalitarianism and tyrannies. In such states, institutions of higher education controlled and managed by the government agencies act like mercenaries, promote the political purposes of the state and make them acceptable to an increasing number of their population and popularity, and supply them with the weapons they need. In the interest of our own democracy, we must resist its trend towards governmental domination of the education process. Higher education is undoubtedly an obligation of the state, but the state is not to be confused with the state control over academic policies and policies. Intellectual progress demands maintenance of spirit of free inquiry, the pursuit of the practice of truth, regardless of the consequences, has been the ambition and achievement. The prayer is that the dying with the more light on that excess that must be light, thought, and I perish in the light. Supreme Court in the landmark judgment of 2002, I'm quoting the TMFI judgment. This is a landmark judgment which highlighted the importance of autonomy for not only for the minority schools, it has also highlighted the importance of autonomy for every kind of institution, whether for higher education or school education. The institution must enjoy autonomy by having autonomy for promotion of education under the following heads. Number one, freedom to admit the students. Number two, to set up a reasonable fee structure. This is the complete freedom of the private schools to decide what fee structure they will give. But that should be judiciously done. That should be rational based or rational, and that should not be having any element of profiteering or any element of commercialization. To constitute the governing body and to take action if there is in addition the duty on the part of the employees. That is employment, hiring and firing, promotion, curriculum, then governing body, the fee structure, all these are the prerogatives of the management. Let me now come to the point that what exactly the autonomy to the management and what is exactly the autonomy to the teacher and what exactly we mean by the autonomy to the students also. It is not that we are talking about autonomy for the management alone. When we're talking about the autonomy for the management, I will consider the 4 points. Point number one, freedom to manage within the parameters and rules. Number two, freedom of financial management without any element of profiteering and commercialization. Point number three, freedom to decide fees which should be done in a very judicious manner. For point number four, appointment of teachers and the recruitment policy. These are the 4 important freedom to be granted to the management of the school. Number two, autonomy to the teachers. When we were talking about autonomy to teachers, I considered 5 very important points that to be given to the teachers. It is not to be controlled by one man, but the principal. Principal has to give the same kind of freedom to the teachers, only then the teacher can grow professionally. It's my own conviction. What are the things that are required for the teachers? Number one, I think, freedom to innovate. Freedom to experiment. Freedom to adopt new practices. Freedom to adopt curriculum transaction, pedagogy. Freedom for professional development. These are the 5 very important things that I consider very important for a teacher to grow. And for that, a teacher must be given that kind of freedom. That teacher can go for it. Teacher, if suppose a teacher wants to do any experiment, you say this is not allowed in my school. How the teacher can grow then? Let the teacher have that kind of freedom. Then let the teacher think, this is the way that I want to teach today. Maybe that she fails, but then this freedom will certainly give them the impetus, the incentive, the motivation to the teacher to grow professionally. And again, I'm talking about the autonomy to the students. I'm not talking about the autonomy to the students, what exactly I want to say about it. I want to say, number one, freedom of inquiry, very important for a child. Number two, freedom of participation in teaching learning process is the second point that I like to emphasize. And freedom of expressing his own opinion freely with the teacher in a debate, in a discussion. He may not be correct, but he should be encouraged to participate in a discussion. Only then we are giving that freedom to the child to grow. And then only the child will be having that impetus of learning and being more motivated when the teachers encourage the child to debate and put his own point of view before the teacher. And then policy of transparency is also very important. And this is not only for the student only. If we want to be connected with the community, if we want the community's support and all, and if we want that the organization must grow, taking into consideration the support of each and every stakeholder, is again very important for the organization to be more very transparent in the policies, in the communication, and there only we can establish a better rapport, a better understanding with the community, with the parents, with the teachers, with the government, with other stakeholders. When we're talking about the autonomy, we have the example, wonderful example of Finland. It is a wonderful kind of a role model before us. What you see, there was a time when Finland was completely under control of the Soviet bloc, and they had no control, they had no freedom at all. They had to follow only the government policies. But when Finland got the freedom from the Soviet bloc, what started happening is, first of all, they understood that if you want to grow, the first priority to be our education. And education has been given the top priority by the Finland government. What is the kind of a liberty, what a kind of autonomy that Finland has given? Very, very strange that all the schools in Finland are government controlled. 100% are funded by the government. But on the other hand, the government does not interfere at all at any stage with the school's functioning. They have given that freedom to the school management, they have given that freedom to the teachers, and they have given that same freedom to the head of the school. Even now, they don't have any fixed curriculum. The curriculum is also decided, constructed by the teachers, and the teacher has the freedom to prepare for his or her own curriculum within the policy, within the framework. That's a very important thing. There is no public examination in Finland. It is up to you to decide whether you would like to appear in a public examination. But there is no hard and fast rule that a child has to appear in a public examination. My only thing that I will say at the end, that today India has got 260 million children studying in schools, elementary schools, and more than 45% of schools are in the private sector. Despite of all that, why India is this lagging? What is the reason that when we're talking about the quality education, still India cannot match with international standard? What are the problems? When we're talking about the first time Indian children appeared for PISA examination, 73 schools participated, 73 states participated, and among the 73, India's rank was 72. Last but not the least, that was the position of India. Why it happened so? Why these pathetic kind of things happening? India adopted in the directive principle of state policy in the constitution that education be a subject in the directive principle of state policy, and within a period of 10 years time, India should be able to achieve a target of elimination of 100% of achieving 100% literacy. What happened then? What happened today? Are we now liberated from the problem of illiteracy? Why it has happened? It is all because the complete bureaucratic control. We are not giving any chance to the private sector to participate in equal manner. This is one of the reasons that India is still lagging behind. We are talking about number of recommendations. They have recognized the private sector has to play a very important and pivotal role for the growth of education, particularly talking about quality education. Why the government is not interested to give that freedom to the schools? Because that also is very important. We're talking about the constitution. Constitution is guaranteed that all the private schools, all the schools, they're funded, self-funded, independent organization must enjoy the freedom, must get the autonomy. But have we given that autonomy to the schools? Have we also complied with the constitutional provision and given that freedom to the schools to grow? Given that even in Delhi today, what is all happening? Then we decide something, there is always some kind of bureaucratic control. And that is the reason that we are all more busy today in some kind of administrative work, preparing our statement, sending our reports and all. But where is the time to spend on the most important factor, education? That requires some kind of freedom. Only then we'll be free to devote our time for that purpose, which is our most primary objective, providing quality education. And that is only possible when we are being given that kind of freedom. Thank you. Your mic is.
Ma'am, you are muted.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. Wonderfully, you have encapsulated the school management, school leaders, teachers, students. I think we have we'll have a difficult task to encapsulate the total scene at the time of wrapping up, which Sunita ma'am is going to do. Before we take up forward, I would like to introduce the other panelists with us, and I request the panelists to please extend the verbal greeting so that our participants, they can see you. We have with us Shri S.L. Jain sir. Welcome S.L. Jain sir. You can say namaskar to sir so that.
Namaskar, Bhattacharya ji. You have done such a wonderful work, and the canvas that you have painted is so comprehensive, and you brought in all kind of autonomy and the importance of autonomy and what happens because of lack of autonomy. So I think the analysis that you have done is really very, very wonderful. Thank you so much.
We also have with us Dr. Ashok Pandey, Director, Alcon Group of School. We welcome you, sir.
Thank you, Muktaji. Thank you very much for inviting me.
We have with us Dr. Rajesh Hasija, Director, Indraprastha Group of School. We welcome you, sir.
Namaskar, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you very much.
We have with us Mrs. Sunita Rajiv, Headmistress from Alcon International School. We welcome Sunita ma'am. You have the big task today to encapsulate everything towards the end. Welcome Sunita ma'am. You can extend the verbal greeting so that the participants, they can see you.
Namaskar. Pranam to everyone. Thank you for inviting me.
We have with us another teacher representative who is actually the head of the Department of English from Indraprastha Group of Indraprastha International School, Mrs. Megha Sharma. Megha ma'am, you can extend a verbal greeting.
Good afternoon.
Megha ma'am is there.
Yes, good afternoon to everyone. And I would say that it is my sheer pleasure, delight, and honor to be a part of this forum. And thank you very much for inviting me.
Parents, they are being represented by the parent representative, Mrs. Pooja Gupta. Pooja, you can extend a welcome greeting to the participants if Pooja is there.
Ma'am, you are muted. Pooja ma'am, you are muted.
Pooja, you are a parent.
You have to unmute yourself.
I thought you were a student. You look like a student.
I'm sorry. Good evening, everyone. Good evening, Bhattacharya sir. It was really great to hear you on this topic, which was very enlightening and very informative because it's a very vast topic, and to hear you on this was really enlightening. Thank you so very much.
We also have with us the lovely young participants, panelist, Miss Tarannum. Tarannum, please extend a verbal greeting.
Namaskar, everyone. Good afternoon, sir. Good afternoon, everyone. It's a huge opportunity to be here and to hear you, and of course to be a part of everyone here today. Among all of you, it's an honor. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Tarannum. Tarannum is from Shri Venkateshwara International School, Dwarka. We have with us Varnika. Varnika Dhyani. Varnika, please extend a verbal greeting.
Good afternoon, everyone. And I would just like to thank you for giving this platform to voice our concerns and talk about this matter.
Oh,
thank you.
Great. That's great. Thank you. Varnika is from Balbharti Public School, Rohini. So I'm so happy to hear you that you are ready to put forward your concern. So can we start with you, Varnika? You can ask a question to Bhattacharya sir. And sir, Varnika is there. You need to satisfy her.
Sure. I cannot give the guarantee that I will be able to say. I can only give the guarantee that I will certainly try my best to convince her.
Definitely. Okay, so I'll proceed with my question, sir. Creating sustainable societies is the nucleus to today's discussion. And we all somewhat agree that having the reins in the hands of the school body is more suitable. But how can the schools develop a more empirical approach that will help students survive in the real world outside the four walls? Like, how will it enable them to undo the past wrongdoings and lead to sustainable societies?
Wonderful question, very wonderful question. See, today, education is not within the four walls of the classroom. In fact, the explosion of knowledge is taking place outside the classroom today more. When the children or students are coming to the class, not they are totally ignorant. They already have equipped themselves with a lot of information and knowledge because of their access to Google and internet and so on and so forth. Today, the biggest challenge for the teacher today to satisfy a child is to, first of all, that a child must not be taken for granted. In today's world, it is not that I say the child knows nothing. I should all the time be prepared to face the child and the challenges being put up by the child in the classroom and all that. So the explosion of knowledge which is happening outside the classroom is the biggest challenge today to the teacher nowadays. And therefore, the teacher, in order to satisfy the child in the classroom, outside the classroom, not only should be fully aware of the child's need and aspiration, the teacher should all the time be explorative, try to make him or herself understand the subject better, and whenever the child is involved in that transaction with the child and all, the teacher has to be very careful, and teacher should all the time take into consideration what exactly the problem the child is facing. So this is kind of a situation, very complex situation that we're facing today. And in a very complex situation, the teacher's role has today become more challenging. And therefore, a teacher has to update himself or herself every day. The knowledge is not constant, it is absolutely dynamic. And therefore, this is a challenge, with a constant challenge with a teacher every day, every time. But this is what exactly is happening today.
Thank you. I think wonderfully sir has expressed, Varnika. So our next panelist, Taranum. Taranum, you can ask your question from sir.
Good afternoon again, sir. Sir, I am also about to be a college student, as you know, and my foremost concern and question in regard to you would be that today institutions can be autonomous, sure. In fact, there are more pros than cons, in fact. But how can we guarantee students' autonomy that leads from autonomous institutions? Do you believe that autonomy in institutions raises independent, motivated leaders or not? Because I am a student and I would like to know.
Already I have referred to that matter in my talk, that autonomy is not only for the management. In that case, the management can become not, this autonomy can lead to some kind of a problem. It can become a dictator. When we're talking about the complete freedom given to the management, and management got all the authorities to function, to take decisions, can become a dictator also, and can lead to corruption, many other wrong practices. The meaning of autonomy is not related to management. When I'm talking about the autonomy, it is also within the parameters of rules and regulations. The purpose of the autonomy is not that I have the power. Main purpose of the autonomy is that I and give that freedom to grow, freedom to learn, and that kind of freedom is not only for the management, that freedom is equally important for the student. When I'm talking about freedom, autonomy for the student, it means so that a child has the complete freedom to participate in the debate, in the discussion. He has every right to inquire, every right to debate, every right to even to disagree what the teacher is saying. When the student is agreeing with the student, with the teacher, that will lead to logical kind of some discussions, and that will lead to a better understanding of the subject matter. So when I'm referring to the autonomy, I am not referring only to the management or the teacher. It is equally important for the student. A student must also have the right to inquire, right to participate, right to question, right to even disagree. And that's the way that a student can grow. And only this is very important for not only for the learning process, it is equally important for the quality education. If it is a one-way process, nothing can happen. When it becomes a two-way process and both are participating and both are enjoying the participation and both agreeing and disagreeing, it will lead to a really a right kind of a learning.
That's brilliant, wonderful. I hope Taranum is satisfied. Sir,
I think if anybody is not satisfied, he has the right to say, I'm not happy.
You can still ask the question in
continuum. As somebody can think, oh, the man, whatever he has said, okay, fine. But I don't agree with him. Don't do it. If in case you're not agreeing with mine, you can always ask me number of questions. Let me try.
That is another flavor of autonomy. That was referring to Finland, although I still feel that the country where the population is a little less than the population of Delhi.
5 lakhs.
But I visited 2 schools in Finland, and just for Varnika's and Taranum's reference, I asked the head boy of the school, what do you want to be, or what is your ambition? And he said, I want to buy a truck, and I want to be a truck owner. So in our country, if somebody will talk like this, there will be the parents will raise their bros, and so that's the autonomy. He wants it, he wants to do it. Probably he has some big dream. The other brilliant child which was being introduced to us by the school authorities is, I want to have my own restaurant, I want to be the restaurant owner. So when we talk about the autonomy, we need to absorb and we need to have a broader vision what autonomy is beyond the school boundaries.
Absolutely, absolutely. They say now, if I all the time say these are the only professions available to you, we are already creating a narrow kind of outlook. If I say decide, you have the freedom, you have the use your potentiality, decide, and that is freedom to give it to the student. Even suppose I become a truck driver and have that dignity, that respect I get from the society, what is wrong in that? There's no taboo there, unfortunately. There's no such taboo.
Absolutely.
That you become a truck driver, so that means your place in the society is always the lower side. Nothing of the sort.
Yes.
A teacher in Finland is the highest paid person in Finland. He's highly respected human being. He has been given that kind of the status in a society. If we can give that, if we can make our teachers that much, respectful before the community, the change or the status of the teacher will completely change. Then what's happening? Oh, you are a teacher. How can you learn from a person if you are not having respect for the teacher? If you have no respect for the teacher and you say, a teacher, oh, he's a teacher, you can grow. You can never have that respect. So thing which in our society, that love, that affection and regard for the teacher, the Guru Shishya Parampara, we have lost that unfortunately today. Although this is out of the context, I know this is not the part of autonomy, but again I'm saying the Guru must enjoy the autonomy, the Guru must enjoy that status. That is important.
Very true, sir. So our next panelist, the head of the Department of English in the Prastha International School, Mrs. Megha. Megha, you can ask your question from sir.
Thank you, ma'am. First of all, pranam to Bhattacharya, sir. Sir, I hope you remember me. I am your student from my principal. So please allow me to ask you a question, though I have a list of questions ready to be asked, but then please allow me to ask at least one. As a teacher, I would ask you that how do I treat that thin line between autonomy and freedom in my classroom?
Repeat the question.
I said, as a teacher, how do I treat that thin line between freedom and autonomy in my classroom?
You see, the freedom and autonomy. Freedom and autonomy, almost there is similar kind of a thing. The only thing is the freedom is not the freedom whatever I want to do. Freedom with accountability, freedom within the parameters of the rules and regulations, freedom with the discipline, and freedom where your action is for something good. Whenever I want to do something and I want that kind of a freedom, that exercise of the freedom is always good. But unfortunately, if you think that I have the freedom and I can do whatever I want, that can lead to anarchy, that can lead to some serious problem and problem in discipline also. So there is a thin line to understand the meaning of freedom. Freedom with a good meaning, freedom with a good intention, freedom where I have a purpose to do something good. That freedom is always to be given, must be granted to a teacher. So autonomy means that I go to the class and I decide that this I want to do today, and that is some kind of play I want to organize today. I want to take the children to the forest and want to play there and show something to the children. I must have that freedom. But suppose I am restricted by the authority. You cannot do that, you cannot do this. And every time there is some kind of restriction on you, and then you find that you are completely now being controlled for each and every activity, you will never be able to grow and sustain and become a better teacher. So that is where the teacher needs freedom and autonomy.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Megha, you want to ask another question?
I would love to. May I?
Yeah.
Okay. Sir, according to you, though it may go slightly, it may slightly divert from the topic, but still it is related to autonomy. So according to you, what is more important, student autonomy or teacher autonomy?
Oh, it's a question, very good question. It is not your 100% prerogative to have autonomy. You have to allow the same freedom to the child. If you are not allowing the freedom to the child and you think that you are having all the power and freedom and no power to be given to the child, then this power is an abuse of power, abuse of autonomy, abuse of your freedom. You have to give the same freedom to a child. Only then that freedom will be having some meaning. Otherwise, it can lead to a problem. And you believe once you're giving the autonomy to the student, you think the students are becoming disciplined. No, they will be growing a positive kind of a thinking. The positive outlook will be grown. You can also develop the personality of the student because the student enjoying that freedom. These are the very important components of the development of personality. When the child is allowed to communicate freely with the teacher, then the student emotionally, intellectually, and otherwise also. Very important for the child to have that freedom.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you, Megha. Pooja Gupta is with us as a parent, but Dr. Hasija has also raised his hand. Dr. Hasija, would you like to ask the question first or shall I ask Pooja ma'am?
Whichever way you order, ma'am.
I think we can take a quick question from the parent and then I'll request Dr. Hasija to please come forward. Pooja ma'am, one question. Okay. I have read your message.
Okay. Good evening, sir, once again. For sure, educational autonomy is globally accepted as a new education model right now, actually, according to you. So, but as it fosters responsibility, as it fosters self-independence, everything. But along with that, it also fosters accountability and responsibility as well. So according to you, what exactly is the right age when this educational autonomy should be introduced to the children? And as a parent, how can we, help them or, accept this model in a very
My answer is there is nothing with the age. If a child, 3-year-old child can ask you some silly question, and if you're snubbing him, no, this is not the time, you are a baby, this is not the right question for you. You are actually, what you are doing now, depriving the child from growing, depriving the child in future to ask any question. And that is a very bad thing that will happen. That if the child is asking anything, try to answer, try to convince. I remember when I was the principal of Balbhati in those days. I'm talking about 1972. And 1972, I was in the school taking ground, and one 3.5-year child came, and she just hugged me. I say hello. She said hello. You know, ma'am, you are the principal. Okay, am I the principal? What am I doing here? Tum ghumte ho. Tum ghumte ho. What is the role of a principal? The principal's role is only to take a round of the school. So that is the conception of it. The child, what more you can expect from a 3-year-old child. And then suppose I'm that kind of person. Say, what? You don't know where? I'm S.K. Bhattacharya, I'm the principal of the school, I'm the head. And you have actually killed everything, every initiative of the child. And in future, the child would have never asked any question. You would have been very, very scared. So do not create any situation where your child is stopping your child from asking questions. Very important for the child's growth, mental, physical, sociological, psychological, emotional growth. Allow the child to have the freedom to ask, freedom to debate, freedom to disagree with you. And that is the way that the child will grow. So when you talk about autonomy, it is no age bar. At the age of 7, I'm going to grant that autonomy to the child, and not before that. That's a wrong thing.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so very much.
Pooja, if time will permit, we'll give you a chance to ask the second question. May I request Dr. Hasija to please ask the question to sir.
Oh my goodness, I'm not prepared.
Good afternoon, sir. You as the President of Action Committee is a symbol for autonomy, who is fighting his battle from last so many years. My question is, sir, we are, as a school administrator, I'm asking, that we are bound by century-old restrictions. Still, we are expected to compete in the global market. You talk about, PISA ranking 72nd we are. My problem is Indian schools have become a soft target for the political populism. We are finding it so difficult to run on day-to-day basis. You are saying when child asks a question and you should answer. Today politics has infiltrated into so much deep that they don't ask a question, but they demand an answer, both the parent and the child. How do we survive in day-to-day function, keeping in mind both autonomy and freedom as an administrator? Over to you, sir.
Dr. Hasija, only for this I have been fighting throughout my life. Only for the autonomy I have been struggling with the government. Only for the autonomy I am fighting with even the school principals and teachers and everyone. I'm having my discussion with the management, some of the management not ready to give freedom even to the principal of the school. Forget about the teachers. And the situation is very complex. X school is having complete autonomy. They are giving maximum respect to the principal, to the teacher. The scenario in that institution is totally different. Where you see while the child is growing, the teacher is more responsible, and the principal is also very accountable, and the teacher is very friendly with the teacher and with the students and with the community and everything, and there is hardly any problem. But in another institution, authoritarian, you decide these are the strict rules and regulations, and even the principal cannot say a word against the decision of the management. Where is it? Where is the autonomy here? The poor principal just for the sake of her own employment, will all the time be succumbing to all kinds of pressure which are coming from the management. So that kind of institution can never grow also. We talk about the government schools. What is all happening to the government schools? There is a complete control by the bureaucrats. Even the principal cannot give any new idea. Even the principal coming with a new idea to the with the higher authorities, he is being snubbed. Follow the rule book. Once you are being asked to follow the rule book, where is the scope for growth? This is again a problem. You have rightly suggested that education is a very big sector, very important sector. In fact, maybe in the next 25 years' time, the total student population in India would be almost equivalent to the entire European country. Even today it is so. 256 million children are attending the elementary schools. 8.5 million teachers are working in the schools. 15 million teachers are working in the schools. But then what is the status of the schools today? Or you think that we have been able to achieve our cherished goal, that is called good education? No, not at all. Still we are giving only three things: reading, writing, and arithmetic. Despite of all NEPs and all, what about the actual classroom transaction? Are you very happy with that? Forget about your school, forget about some limited number of schools and all. Maybe I can quote about 200, 300 schools, but that is not in an iceberg. Totally nothing. In a small fragmented part of the country is having a privilege of quality education, privilege of granting autonomy, privilege of giving that respect to the teacher, privilege of considering the head of the institution is a guru and let her have the complete autonomy and complete power. So this is a very vicious circle, Dr. Hasija, very vicious circle. And to come out of the vicious circle, if you think I have got any formula, any mantra, I don't have. But I know that is only continuous struggle, and only with that we will be able to achieve our goal. And you have seen what is happening in Delhi today. Slowly and gradually, we have been able now to educate our principals, our management. They are now becoming more disciplined, they are becoming more responsible and all. It will take time, my dear. It will take time. I know that it is this malady is an old malady of 73 years' time. And you want a solution right now. I don't think I have got a solution. I can only say I'm equally concerned with that.
But I'm sure with your leadership, solution is not far away.
Thank you, Dr.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. I think wonderfully you have answered sir's question. You are indeed a ग्रंथ. आपको encyclopedia कहना शायद गलत है. आप actually मायने में एक ग्रंथ हैं, sir. Or whatever we have discussed, whatever we have deliberated today, it's not possible to encapsulate, but still, I'll invite Mrs. Sunita Rajiv to please sum up the session. Sunita Rajiv, headmistress from Elcon International School.
Thank you, Muktaji. In the presence of living legends, if you are asking me to speak, already.
Sunita, a little louder.
Okay, is it clearer now?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. I said in the presence of living legends, if you're asking me to speak, already my tongue is in my throat. So with my limited knowledge and whatever I could understand, I must compliment you that when you envisage education 4.0, how beautifully every dimension was, gathered in this panel discussion. So we began with a mentor, right? And then the three dimensions: the student, the parent, the teacher, everybody taken into the circle. And sir so wisely began with the autonomy of the management, moving on to the teacher and moving on to the student. Thanks to the presence of a parent, we could also, raise that point, because that was one question which was surging in my mind, that how to prepare parents to give that autonomy to their children. And then eventually after Hasija sir's question and Megha ma'am's question, you see, Sir, who is himself a Vidur, I see him as Vidur, who stands in the entire Rajya Sabha and is able to say, good morning, here is a chink in your armor. So this is one aspect that we still need to do, and the work is on. Voices have to be raised, and we still have to prepare the society for giving that autonomy at every level. And it all begins from the family. Sir gave a very simple example from the 3-year-old or from a 2.5-year-old. If you don't allow that child to think, and when decisions are only imposed upon that child, even in a senior class or maybe in a middle school, when they are asked, that do you have a question, sometimes there is silence because the children have been trained to listen more. So I think that is one aspect we need to open our eyes. Thankfully enough the schools which are sitting here, we have enjoyed that autonomy, we have lived that. And the craziest of experiments of the teachers, we were allowed to take that. Sometimes we passed, sometimes we failed, but we learned from our lessons. We were given such lovely advice. And my mentor and my teacher is sitting here, I'm speaking, I hope he'll be, not dismissing in his heart what I'm saying. But today we are the result of the autonomy given to us so beautifully well, to every person in the school for that matter. So that is what makes a school, but then it has to be everywhere. There are thousands of schools in the city and lakhs of schools in the country, and the change has to be brought. But the voices have begun, that is the best part. So sir, your talk was so enlightening. I'm actually in no position to make any comment on what you have said. But with my limited knowledge, it's always, you can always light a lamp even if the sun is shining. So that is it, sir.
Thank you, Sunita ma'am. Lovely. Before we wrap up, I'll request first Ashok sir to kindly convey a line of blessings. Thereafter, one line from Jan sir, and then over to Kriti for the vote of thanks.
I think
Ashok sir.
your choice of word, I have some reservation. We are in no position to give any blessings, particularly in the presence of Bhattacharya sir. We have to seek his blessings, and my good wishes to the great work that you are doing. You are creating, I think, a seminal knowledge and a huge direction for the society and education to function in this country. Continue to do this work. My best wishes to you and your team. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Jain sir.
Thank you, Mukta. I think Samurja is doing a great work, and by inviting Shri Bhattacharya ji, who has explained so many things, but the question still remains the road ahead. When so much of stifling is there, so much of you see lack of so the road ahead is still there, and we are sure that under the leadership of Shri S.K. Bhattacharya ji, the path will be cleared for us to move ahead by bringing in sustainability, because sustainability is the key word. Where we have the quality, we have the autonomy, and if the quality and autonomy, they go side by side, the future is going to be bright. So thank you for initiative. Thank you.
So thank you everyone for showering your blessings on Samurja, and we ensure that we'll continue taking these small steps. Over to Kriti, please.
Thank you, ma'am. Good evening, everyone. Today, I, Kriti Kapoor, take the opportunity to put my gratitude into words. On behalf of Samurja Educational Society, I would like to extend my heartiest thanks to the honorable panelists for their presence in the talk show. Thank you, Shri Bhattacharya sir, for you are an exemplary person, and you have said we are going to learn in our classes too. I would like to thank Dr. Ashok sir and Dr. Hasija sir for assisting and encouraging all of us. We have been fortunate enough to get your support, sir. Ms. Sunita Rajiv ma'am, Ms. Megha ma'am, Ms. Pooja ma'am, and our youngest panelists, Taranum and Varnika. Thank you so much for enlightening us with your inspirational and motivating words.
Thank you, SL Jan sir, for attending this talk show. Wholeheartedly, I would like to extend a special thanks to Dr. Mukta Mishra ma'am for her support and guidance for organizing such talk shows. I extend my big thanks to our Samurja team, especially Ms. Monica Khanduja ma'am. Heartfelt gratitude to all our educators who joined us today. Thank you for making this talk show successful with your contribution. We look forward to your feedback and support as always. Once again, thank you everyone. Namaskar.
Namaskar, sir, and that's the result of autonomy. Autonomy is given to Kriti ma'am. Kriti ma'am, the vote of thanks is being extended seniority wise. So we apologize. SL Jain sir is our mentor. So the name of SL Jain sir should be taken up first. Thank you so much, and kindly excuse these small mistakes. When we talk about autonomy, we need to accept those miniature mistakes as well. Thank you, Bhattacharya sir. Pranam, Naman.
One more thing that I wanted to talk, and Dr. Mishra, that we have today, you have invited some of the stalwarts in the field of education. Believe it or not, I've got so much regard and respect for Dr. Ashok Pandey. Dr. Ashok Pandey is not only a leader in Delhi, he is a well-known education leader for the entire country today. And whenever he is presenting any talk on any educational matter, we listen to it with a lot of admiration. He's a wonderful speaker, very talented man, and his in-depth knowledge of education, particularly about when we're talking about a new experiments all, and match it all. And same thing I can talk about Dr. Hasija and Dr. Bisay S.A. Jain. And even when talking about Sunita ji, I was listening to her, she has a wonderful, very, very comprehensive, the way that she gave a final talk on the topic and propose a vote of thanks. Her absolutely fantastic talk speaker. Why not to make it some kind of a panel discussion rather than one man speaking, other people speaking or listening. At the end, you say it's a very good talk, and at the end, you say so many things missed here. Mr. Bhattacharya did not talk about it. I never agreed with Mr. Bhattacharya. Why? Why not have a very debate on the subject, on any subject and all, allow that freedom to talk and express our views and all, and make it a very lively kind of debate. So I was expecting that today when we announced the name of Dr. Ashok Pandey and Mr. S.L. Jain and Dr. Hasija, I thought there's going to be some kind of panel discussion and all the 4 or 5 people will be participating equally and exchange their views and thoughts, and then we can learn from each other. And that was exactly what I was expecting today. However, it's a privilege that I could speak for about half an hour or so. And I don't know how honest you were all giving your praise for me, for my talk today, but certainly I enjoyed. That's what I can say.
Sir, each one of them, they are taking the sessions.
Mukta ji,
yes, sir.
Now I will come to your rescue, you don't worry. Bhattacharya sir, thank you very much for your kind words. Mukta ji's this show, the format of the show is like this only. And she wants to go in depth on a subject with one erudite and authority on the subject. So she is having a series of talks like this. And Dr. S.L. Jain, Dr. Hasija, they are also going to appear on this show in the same fashion as you. So that is what the format of the program is.
That's
but, let me tell you, sir, it is your modesty and humility that you wanted it otherwise. And I take it as a piece of advice for Mukta ji, that next one show after this series is over, you organize where we all have some discussion in due reverence to what Mr. Bhattacharya has said. Okay.
Sure.
So I hope you will pardon this format, sir. Thank you very much.
Continue with the format that you decided, Mukta ji. Whatever the thing that you decided, don't change now for the but there should be at least one session where we people can participate and debate on that particular subject.
Absolutely.
And some problems that we are facing today. and what exactly are those problems? What are the solutions? What do you think about a problem? My perception and Dr. Pandey's perception may not be the same, but then let us disagree. And from disagreement, we can come to some kind of consensus, arrive at some consensus, to some problem, to some kind of solution. Today, you all know what is all happening. And therefore, there's a need for exchanging our thoughts and ideas. And for that, there should be complete freedom to be given to the panelists to express, to fight, to discuss, and express the views and all. Let us see what happens. You will all enjoy that. Very much enjoy that.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. And namaskar to everyone.
Thank you. All the best. Thank you very much. Okay.